Here, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, 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 welcome. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? We have the man himself, the teacher, Mr. Damian Crawford, questioning the the assessment of teachers' competence under the S or the JTC regime. And I was listening to the parliament yesterday. I have some screen recordings on my phone, but it's much easier to do it this way. You know, the editing and stuff on the phone takes a lot of time. So let's hear what the man has to say, yes?
We see a term within the bill say, be competent to teach. This is an undefined standard, what it means to be competent to teach. Section 28(1)(b), licensing requires a person to, and I quote, be competent to teach. But the Act does not define competence, leaves interpretation up to the Council for future regulations. Undefined standard is a potential for arbitrary enforcement. No clarity on what competence means. Teacher could be denied a license or renewal without misconduct, just on the basis of a perception of competence to teach. It may target outspoken educators, and it may also target persons in failing schools. For example, could competence be the grades that you are getting, the averages that you are producing? And a teacher could always say that based on the realities of my school, for example, recently I saw in the news, again for the concern expressed by Senator Golding, I won't call the name of the school, but you would have seen in the news where one school had a literacy rate, a secondary school, of almost 210 out of 212.
What?
They had to do intervention. They're trying an intervention now in that school at the 7th grade. However, when I was reading the article, what struck me was the principal said, but the 8th grade have the same reality last year, 7th grade. So that teacher might say, how do you hold me accountable for my competence to teach can be measured by a input of incompetence? I mean, and a lot of us celebrate some schools. I went to the Kingston College, the great Kingston College. But KC get better crop of students than many other schools that we're better than. We see a term.
So, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that stood out to me, and you know, I have some of the clippings on my phone right here. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is hopefully you guys can because he was making such valid points. You know, 1 second, my good people. Videos, right? Oh, it's not this phone? It's which phone? It's the iPhone? Really? iPhone, are you made the screen recording pan for Damian Crawford? That's strange. It can't be. Cannot be. Must be this one. But one of the things he was saying is that the teachers are ill-equipped, right? And because of not getting the tools necessary to do their job, they cannot be held responsible for the lack of competence. And I don't know who can argue against that. I don't know anybody that can argue that logic. If you're not giving the teacher the basic tools necessary for them to do what they're supposed to, how then can you hold them accountable? I just think it's just common sense, man. You know, I'm not certain what took place, but you know, let me improvise. Let me improvise. I sure I did some type of hold on there. Yo, alright, here we go.
70, the appeal tribunal, teachers may appear in person or be represented a oversight, in our opinion, by not having heart. All of those things come into play.
Not going to belabor.
No geometry set, they had no calculator, they had no book. First of all, the 40 minutes you had to teach, 10 minutes was to find a desk or a chair. They had to go to the class that went to PE or went to lab to find a desk and a chair, because I had them after they had lab. And when, however, when I was reading the article, what struck me was the principal said, but the 8th grade have the same reality last year.
Here we go, here we go.
So that teacher might say, how do you hold me accountable for my competence to teach can be measured by a input of incompetence? I mean, and a lot of us celebrate some schools. I went to the Kingston College, the great Kingston College. But KC get better crop of students than many other schools that we're better than. And KC get great alumni support. And KC get better parents as it relates to economic capacity and interest. And a lot of times these are double parent homes, and a lot of times they are competent in jobs that earn them sufficient income. So I can tell you from my own experience as a teacher, I taught at a school, 53 children in the class. They had no geometry set, they had no calculator, they had no book. First of all, the 40 minutes you had
53 students in a class. This is what the teachers them have to be working with. 53. I say you get bad. No, sir. No geometry, no calculator. I want to know say DAMIAN CRAWFORD teach maths, right? Wow.
53 children in the class. They had no geometry set. They had no calculator. They had no book. First of all, the 40 minutes you had to teach, 10 minutes was to find a desk or a chair. They had to go to the class that went to PE or went to lab to find a desk and a chair, because I had them after they had lab. And when you save that 10 minutes, they had no books. Going into exam now, some schools haven't received rental books.
What?
All their rental books.
People who not hear this, this is coming from a teacher, you know, and they cannot challenge DAMIAN CRAWFORD about these realities, you know, because he's in the system. Oh my God.
Yes, persons have asked for 35, received 7.
Carlton,
This is a reality that we face. So when you have these situations, how does that teacher be judged by the outcome in the reality? First of all, they have done lunch. I make the joke all the time that when he said the area of a circle is pi r square, him stuck a pi. R square means nothing to him, because he must say, is it pecan, is it apple? He has no lunch. I've been to another school, 10 o'clock teaching maths, the his head is on the decks. Why is our head on the decks? Research have shown that many of our girls have iron deficiency. That once their menstrual thing have started and they're not eating proper meals, them basically lethargic for the entire day.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that when women see their cycle, that they become lethargic, they become tired because they're lacking in iron. I didn't even know that. So how is the child gonna focus if, my God, man, the teachers have it, boy, and they're not paying y'all enough money, and you guys are trying to carry a mountain on your back while climbing a mountain? That's crazy.
How do you judge that teacher? So when you see this, I think that it allows for the sneaking in of the performance-based pay without the discussion of the performance-based pay. And to that extent, I am concerned about it because competence have not been defined, and I believe that the teachers are at high risk if they don't demand for competence to teach to be sufficiently defined.
So this is a great point that he's raising about the bill or the act or whatever, right? Because they're not getting the tools in which, you know what I'm saying, they need. And there's real circumstances where he's mentioning the kids are not even being fed. Too much of them is in the classroom. And it's just like, it's a perfect storm. So how you going to blame the teachers? And then they won't be able to receive proper compensation because of the evaluation of competence. I keep saying competence, right? But you cannot grade them off competence because the situation is untenable. The entire situation. I never knew a lot of these things. Yeah, they literally are destroying the education system. You never know. I never know. So big up to Damian Crawford for raising this issue. You understand? And let me know what you guys think. And go and listen to his speech in full. Alright? And check it out. Okay? No, sir.